All right, so yes, welcome everyone to the LMPS Graduate Admission at York session. LAMPS stands for Liberal Arts and Professional Studies, which is our largest faculty at York University. My name's Eileen. I'm the Graduate Recruitment Officer here at York. So my role is to help or assist anyone who's got questions about graduate admission to help navigate the process at York. If I can't help you, I will find someone else at York who can. So today's presentation is going to take about 30, 25, 30, 40 minutes. Depends on how many questions we get, but we'll have an open Q&A at the end. So feel free to pop your questions in the Q&A as we go, and my colleague Gabriella or myself will be able to address it. Okay, so for what we're going to cover, if PowerPoint cooperates, what we'll cover in tonight's session is a brief introduction to York University, talk about why someone might choose to pursue um, graduate studies at York, um, do basics and eligibility of each degree level. Then we'll talk about LAPS programs in particular. So there are uh, quite a few, sorry, programs in liberal arts professional studies. We'll go into finances, so we'll talk about tuition or how much it costs to pursue a graduate degree at York. We'll talk about funding, so funding packages for financial support, and then scholarships as well, which are separate from funding, but still a form of financial support. Then we'll go into how to apply, when to apply, documents you need to submit, deadlines, all that jazz. So for those of you who are students at York who have attended one of the other sessions we've done, I apologize that this information is probably the stuff you already know, but um, in case you don't, York is the third largest university in Canada. We're located in the heart of the Greater Toronto area, so just a subway ride away from downtown Toronto. Toronto is the largest and most diverse city in Canada. Actually, 50% of the population was born outside of Toronto. So English and French are the official languages, but across the region, over 200 different languages are spoken every day. So in the Greater Toronto area, we have three campuses at York. First is our main campus, which is Keele, located in northern Toronto. Keele is a city within a city, basically. It's about 50,000 students overall, and about 10% of those are graduate students, so about 5,000. Glendon is located in Midtown Toronto, and it's our bilingual campus. So English and French, or French only for some programs. Um, Glendon is much smaller than Keele. So only about 2,000 students overall, and about 5 to 10% are graduate students. Then in 2024, we officially launched Markham, which was just north of the city of Toronto. Currently, there's 5 graduate credentials, 3 of which belong to liberal arts and professional studies. There's about 400 students, but we'll definitely be growing in the coming years there. But overall at York, we've got over 80 programs to choose from, over 100 degrees and diplomas on offer, and just over 6,000 graduate scholars and postdoctoral fellows total in the community. So for why someone might want to pursue graduate studies, basically we've drilled it down to 3 main reasons, or 3 main types of reasons. Professional growth, personal development, and academic excellence. So in terms of professional growth, a grad degree opens doors to higher employment rates and higher salary rates. Professional development, learning, growing, developing your networks. And then for academic excellence, contributing to advancing knowledge, creating knowledge, and collaborating with the best and brightest in your fields. So, and again, forgive me if this is information you already know, but this is the basics and eligibility for each degree level. So we will talk about master's, PhD, and graduate diplomas. So for master's degrees, they are the first level of graduate study. the university. Usually they're 1 to 2 years full time. And traditionally, a master's would come in one of three formats. So coursework only, major research project, or thesis. So for coursework only, you're doing a set number of courses, somewhere between 8 to 10. And then once you finish those, that's it. You're done, you can graduate. For a major research project-based program, you're still doing courses, usually about 6, and then a small research project in addition to those courses. And then thesis-based, you are doing usually only about 4 courses, and that's total, that's not per term, 4 courses and a large research project. So some programs offer all 3 formats, the choice is yours. Others, there's sometimes 2 options, so often, major research paper or thesis. And then some are only available in one format. If you're wanting to do this program, you have to do it in this particular format. So there's also programs that fall outside the traditional structure, like social work has practicum placements in addition to the coursework and the research. So definitely some that fall outside of the traditional structure, but for the most part, those are the 3 that are on offer. To be eligible to do a master's at York, you need to have an honors undergraduate degree. So commonly known as a 4-year degree, honors degree. At York, it's the 120 credit degree. Excuse me. It may be called something different at the school you go to, but as long as it is the 4-year degree that has a certain, or sorry, the honors degree that has a minimum number of courses at the 4,000 or 400 level or above, usually it's considered equivalent of honors. We are going to share the international equivalency chart in the chat. So if you went to school outside Canada, you can see here's how your degree stacks up in comparison to the requirements. We look at your grades from your last 2 full-time years or the equivalent on your transcript at the time that you apply. The minimum for most masters is a B+. Sometimes they state a B, but in practice, really, it's B+ or above, which on different grading scales is 77 out of 100, 7 out of 9, 3.3 out of 4, second class upper division, 4 out of 5, 15, 16 out of 20. If we didn't cover your grading scale, we can certainly do so in the Q&A. But graduate admission or master's admission at York is competitive. Meeting the admission requirements, the minimum admission requirements, is no guarantee of admission. I see a question, does doing a course-based master's hurt your chance for a PhD in the future? Well, the best preparation for a PhD, which we'll go over what a PhD is on the next slide, is a thesis, ideally, if not a major research paper. Does it fully cut off a PhD to you? No, not necessarily, but the PhD admissions committee is going to want you to showcase your readiness to conduct research at the PhD level, and the best tool you have for that is to succeed at the master's level. Speaking of PhDs, a PhD or doctoral degree, the terms are interchangeable. It's an advanced research degree. So it's the highest available academic degree granted by the university. PhDs, if you're studying full-time, usually take 4 or 5 years. Could be 6 or more, depends on your research, but the format across the board, very similar. You enter the program, you do courses in your first, maybe second year. You write your qualifying or your comprehensive exam, and then it's years and years of research. So ultimately, the time it takes to completion is the time it takes to do your research project. For all liberal arts and professional studies programs, you need to have a master's degree before you go into a PhD. In other parts of the world, it may be more common to do what's called a direct entry PhD, where you go right from your bachelor's to your doctoral degree. York only has one. It's in mechanical engineering. And you have to have an A average in an undergrad in mechanical engineering to get to the PhD. But yes, for all LAPS programs, need a master's. We look at your master's grades for PhD admission. Question in the chat, if you already have a master's, are those grades used as opposed to your undergrad grades when applying for another master's? Correct. We don't mix levels, quote unquote. So we go by the credo of highest or latest. So if you already have a master's, we use your master's grades. If someone has 2 bachelors, we go by the latest one. And we wouldn't mix graduate and undergraduate grades. There is a lesser known third credential, but we do have some in the faculties, so we'll briefly touch on it. Graduate diplomas. So they are essentially a handful of graduate courses in an area where either we don't have a full degree or we do, but there is demand for a shorter credential, like get in, study for 8 months, get out right to the workforce. So they're meant for that purpose, not for upgrading purposes. The entry requirements are the same as they are for a master's program. But there's 2 kinds of diplomas, standalone and concurrent. So standalone is you apply directly to the program, you complete the requirements. The management diploma is 8 months, accounting is 12, and then off to the next thing. A lot of diplomas are concurrent, meaning that you would have a primary program, whether that's master's or PhD, and you would complete the diploma in addition to that. So really, you can only register for the diploma if you are also doing that degree primarily. So if that's something you wanted to pursue, you you would apply to the degree, get accepted, and then ask your program for permission to apply for the diploma once you're already a student, though. So these are all the programs we'll be covering. So quite a few. We just got word about an hour ago that we will also be admitting to the PhD in economics this year. So that is the small typo that I did not fix before launching the session. However, all of these programs plus PhD in economics. So good news if that was something you were interested in. So these are the only programs that we'll be answering questions about tonight. But I mean, you can email us at any point about other programs or come to a different session or anything like that. We're happy to help. It's just for each faculty presentation, we just want to focus on the programs. Can you do a master's and a grad diploma at the same time? Yep. Most of them, that's how you have to do it. It might mean taking an extra term to finish the extra coursework, but yeah. Next, we'll go into finances. We will if PowerPoint cooperates with me. So we're going to learn what a funding package is, or reiterate it for those who know, and then we'll move into the tables of like, here's what the tuition is for this program, here's what the funding is, et cetera, et cetera. So before we go into the tables, we'll go over what a funding package is because funding, it's a hallmark of graduate studies, but a lot of people don't know that. So for the most part, at the degree level anyway, graduate studies are funded. So the university gives you money to pursue the degree program. There is no funding for diplomas, no. But a funding package is money given to you by the university to help cover the cost of the program. Usually funding fully covers your tuition and health insurance costs, with more left over. If you are a full-time student in an eligible program, you are automatically considered for a funding package. There is nothing extra you need to do. When you are applying to a funded program, you are automatically applying for a funded spot. Most domestic full-time students in funded programs will get a funding package. International students, there are funded spots in these programs, but it is possible to also get an unfunded if maybe they gave their funded spot to another student, but they would still like to accept you. It's possible to get an unfunded offer. Either way, you're going to find out in your offer letter. It would say, congratulations, here's a spot, or we're offering you a spot in this program. Here's how much money you would receive to come study with us if you so choose. Sometimes they'll do it by term, sometimes by year, depends. Or sometimes they'll do total. For the whole 2-year program, here's how much money, which you got to read carefully because it's a big amount sometimes to receive per year, but it's for a whole 2-year program. Anyway, first we'll go into the tuition table for unfunded programs. So these are programs that don't fund anybody, full-time, part-time, domestic, international. So the grad diploma in management, the grad diploma in accounting, financial accountability, human resources management, only at the master's level, the PhD is funded, and then public policy administration and law. So the grad diploma in management, keep in mind that is tuition for 8 months because the program is only 8 months. The other ones are 12 months because they are full year diplomas. So there is differential tuition if you are a domestic student who is a resident of Ontario, domestic student who lives in a province or territory outside of Ontario, and then international is anyone who requires a visa or study permit to come study at York. So we'll put the fees information in the chat. You can have a look at it. These are also the current numbers, like fall 2025, winter 2026. Usually it's only a couple of dollars difference year to year. I think it was like $8 for some of them from last year. So that's unfunded. We'll move to domestic funded. Tuition for all domestic programs listed here, and then any PhD in liberal arts professional studies is $5,200 per year. So because grad school goes year round, fall, winter, and summer, you're looking at 1,735 per term. So the standard funding package for most master's students is $10,000. You don't have to apply for this money. You don't have to pay it back. It's not based on financial need, and you don't have to work for it. You simply get the money in thirds as you progress through the program each term. The $10,000 minus tuition, essentially it works out to about $400 a month to help with living expenses. There are a handful of exceptions. Interdisciplinary Studies is not offering funding packages for this academic year. And then Economics and Information Systems and Technology offer higher funding packages, usually because there is some work component, whether that's a teaching assistant or a research assistant role. At the PhD level, tuition is the same, $5,200, and the standard funding package is just under $27,000. So you pay your tuition, and there's $22,000 to go towards living expenses. If you are interested in studying part-time, at the undergrad level at York, you pay by credit. You take 3 credits, you pay this. You take 6 credits, you pay this. At the graduate level, there isn't that distinction. There's only 2 categories, full-time or part-time. Part-time is exactly half of what full-time tuition is. So it's $2,600 a year or $870 per term. There's no funding for part-time studies. If you ask a question in the Q&A and we don't answer it, it's because it's marked as answer at the end. You don't need to ask it twice. So I'll leave the domestic tuition up for just another minute. Okay, we'll go to international. So tuition for, I don't know why PowerPoint did that. Anyway, tuition for all master's programs that are funded is just under $20,000 a year or $6,600 per term. And you can see the standard funding packages for each offered. This year, history is not funding international students, and economics and information systems and technology are offering higher funding packages than the standard of 24.5. After you pay tuition, basically the take home for most master's international students is going to be about $4,800 as well. International students will want to get in touch with York International because there are definitely rules about when you apply for your study permit, how the liquid funds you have to have, proof of assets. I'm not 100% sure how it works. It's illegal in Canada to give immigration advice if you're not a registered immigration consultant. So we have a whole department at York whose job it is to be that those immigration consultants. But yes, even if you're funded, you're still going to have to prove some sort of do some sort of financial disclosure. The funding for PhDs, all PhDs in the faculty, tuition is just under $19,000 for the year or $6,300 per term. The standard funding package for almost every PhD is just over 39,000. The communication and culture number should be one column over. So it's just a little bit lower at just under 38,000. But yes, for liberal arts and professional studies, teaching assistant roles are prioritized for PhD students. Usually MA students don't receive one, with the exception of economics and information systems and technology. But let's say you receive a funding package, great. Let's say you don't. Either way, you can still apply for scholarships. I should say degree students can. Often, if you're applying for a diploma, it's out of pocket. If you're doing a concurrent diploma, I don't think it costs anything extra, to my knowledge. It's just covered under your full-time tuition. But there's three main types of awards: current student, government, and external. So current students, you can apply for these awards once you're a student, and so September, really, 2026, hopefully, or beyond, depends. But they're between $500 and $5,000. Criteria for each is different. Sometimes it's grades, registration in a certain program, research in a certain area. Literally, each one is different. Government awards, which can be quite large, they're prestigious. They require a comprehensive application, but they can be tens of thousands of dollars. So very large. Some are still open, especially at the master's level. There is an experienced grad York session at 9 a.m. tomorrow, or 9:30, I can't remember. But you can go to our YouTube channel, which we'll be putting that link in the chat towards the end, to sign up. Or sorry, the YouTube channel is for a recording of past scholarship sessions, but there were some changes this year to the scholarship structure. So if you have time tomorrow morning, I would recommend attending. My goodness, it's late. Okay. Other external scholarships. You don't apply through the government, you don't apply through the university, but you apply directly to corporations, foundations, or the agencies that adjudicate the awards. But these can also be quite large, like tens of thousands of dollars. So definitely worth at least having a look through and thinking like, do I apply or qualify for this? Should I apply? Do I have the capacity? Do I have the resources? A lot of awards are not only entrance awards. You can apply in your first year for your second year. If you're going into a 2-year program, there are a bunch of 1-year masters in this faculty. So if you're in a 2-year master's or in a PhD, it's not like you've missed the train if you didn't apply this year, so to speak. You could potentially apply in future years. There is also needs-based funding, or support, I should say. York Financial Assistance is the bursary program. Now, usually it's no more than $1,000, and you can only apply once you're a student. So keep that in mind. It certainly wouldn't pay tuition or anything like that, but it would help a little bit extra, to be sure. And then if you are this is somewhat tricky, a degree student who is a domestic student, Canadian citizen or permanent resident, who is a resident of Ontario, you can apply for OSAP, so the Ontario Student Assistance Program. It is made up of grants and loans given out by a combo of the Ontario and Canadian government. It's based on your personal income, family status, assets. So you can apply for it, full or part-time. Any degree student is not eligible for diplomas, or diplomas are not eligible for the funding. For the actual application itself, you're going to want to look through what the requirements are, and we'll go through those on the next slides. But have a look before you apply, because right now would be, if you haven't already applied, putting together your supporting documents. I mean, it's never too early, so definitely take a pass at that if you haven't already. The application itself is in two parts. If you joined our 6 p.m. session, you saw the walkthrough of what the first part looks like, which is just basic information and a payment. That needs to be done by the deadline. And then once that's confirmed and you have access to your portal, then you submit all your documents. So you need to leave space, leave room to apply, get your confirmation email, and to submit all your documents online. It seems like far away, but some programs have a December 1st deadline, like in this faculty social work does, and it is going to barrel right through to December 1st before we know it. So just keep that in mind. Programs with a December 1st deadline do not take late apps. They don't need to. They get hundreds of on-time apps, so they're not looking to take any late ones. You would have to wait to the next year. Okay, so if you've been to any of the other faculty sessions, you'll know we go program by program. Instead, we are going to go requirement by requirement. So usually this is when I would list the deadline on each of each program, but I could not fit it all on one slide. So I may have to put that down to two, but I'm going to share a link in the chat, the program contacts page. Each, let's see, deadlines. Once you go to the program and you click learn more, you can see the deadline, or there is also somewhat of a cheat code, I suppose, if you go to the application. Actually, let me make sure I'm sharing that. And you go to goal of study, you want to start in September and study full-time at a degree, it will tell you all of the deadlines for all the programs. So you can see it here. You can click through and see all of them. So I will also put that. Link to application shortcut. There we go. So that's where you can see all the deadlines at either one of those places. So we will start with requirements. So yeah, instead of program by program, we're doing requirement by requirement and listing for the programs. This one's an easy one because every single applicant to every single program has to submit transcripts from all university studies. Any university you have ever studied at. It does not matter if you studied in another country, if you did an exchange, if you were a transfer student, if you have multiple degrees, if you studied 50 years ago, if you feel that your previous studies are completely unrelated to your future studies, it does not matter. We need to see a transcript document from each individual university. We don't need to see college transcripts because we don't use those for grad admission, only university. So if you did a postgraduate certificate or a diploma, like that's great, put it on your resume, but we don't need to see the academic documentation for that. Unofficial transcripts are fine when you first apply. It's only usually when you're accepted, hopefully you are accepted, that you need to submit a final official document, final official being from the other institution directly to us, includes your graduation on it, that kind of thing. So yes, transcripts from all university studies. I've had a couple great questions this week, like, oh, I did one course at another school on a letter of permission. Great, we still need a transcript from that school, even if that course is listed on your homeschool's transcript. Next up is references. We need to see the name and email address of 2 or 3 referees. You can see for each one here. Yeah, name and email address for the number of referees. We don't accept pre-written references. So we ask for the name and email address. We email them a standardized form for them to fill out about you. References can be academic, so someone who has taught you or supervised your research. They could be professional, someone who has supervised or managed you at a work or volunteer position. Some programs say they prefer academic. If they did, or if they do, I've put it on here. If they don't, I didn't differentiate. So I'll leave that up for just a second. Everyone, regardless of whether they are academic or professional, fills out the same form. Are all the references required for English academic? If the program doesn't, like, didn't disclose or didn't put a preference, I only put ones where a program clearly stated what they would prefer. The thing with references is that traditionally it used to be for someone who had been through graduate school before to vouch for you and say, I did this, I went through graduate school, became a faculty member. I think this person would also be a good fit to do that as well. The definition is definitely expanded. Like there's a lot of people going into, especially masters only, that have no intention of going into the academy at the end of the day. So plus lots of people in the workforce like have a master's degree and could say like, yes, these skills, this person has these skills, which would serve them well at graduate school. But if you are still in school, the more academic, the better. But if not, if you're someone who's been in school for 20 years, all professional, like that's just what it needs to be. If you're, sometimes we've run into it where people quite literally, like their faculty members they worked with are dead because it was that long ago. But plus, if someone is speaking about your skill set 20, 15, even 10 years ago, they're speaking about a different person, probably. I imagine there's been growth in that period of time. So wouldn't be fair to have an academic reference that isn't able to speak to your current skills and abilities. Next up is a statement of interest, which is required for all programs except for human resources management. It's optional at the master's level, and for the economics MA, it's not required. Everyone else, it is 1 to 2 pages, 500 to 1,000 words, double spaced. Why you're wanting to pursue the program, research if you're wanting to do any research, faculty you're wanting to work with, what you're hoping to do after you graduate, that kind of thing. We've shared a link in the chat that to see the how to write a statement of interest video that our dean does, the Dean of Faculty of Graduate Studies. It's literally, she lays out like, here's a template of what to write, here's what to do, here's what not to do. Next up is resume or CV. Every program requires this except history, MA, not required. It doesn't need to be a certain format. There's no like, there's a lot of variation. There's a lot of ways to do it right, I should say. So just keep in mind who the audience for this is. So it's committees of faculty members who are making admissions decisions about a graduate program. So should your resume be 4 pages? Probably not. CVs by definition are always going to be longer, but at the end of the day, concise is best. If you're a current student, the Career Center can help you with resume or CV writing. I see a question about the statement of interest for a certain program. Always follow what's on the program website first and foremost. They are the #1 authority. They run their own admissions. So if they say they want XYZ, do XYZ, not LMNOP. They're the Faculty of Graduate Studies dean previous to the one now was an English professor, and he wrote an excellent guide on admissions. That's on their website still. So it's definitely a gift to have that level of detail. English language proficiency test. This is complex in that it's not based on citizenship. It is very possible to be a Canadian citizen and still need to submit a test score. We don't base it on the language you speak at work. We don't base it on language you speak where you live. It is based on the university that you studied at. So if you didn't do your K to 12 education in Ontario or in Canada or a degree in English Canada, you may need to submit a test score. There are exceptions, of course. We keep a list of schools that if you did your degree there, usually you would get exemption or a waiver, but we're very strict about that. We could certainly go into it in the Q&A if you want me to look up specific schools on the screen, I can do that live. But if you studied outside of Canada, it may be on the table that you need to submit IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo. Pearson is another popular test, but scores required range between 6.5 and 7.5 IELTS, or 120 and 140 Duolingo, for example. Some programs in the faculty require a sample of written work. So at the master's level, usually it's a third or fourth year seminar paper. At the PhD level, it's a master seminar paper, maybe an outtake from your major research project or thesis. If a program has denoted page count or word count, I've put it here. But it's common for humanities or social science programs to require this. If there is no max, it's at your discretion. But keep in mind, I mean, who's the audience for the committee? Professors. Are you going to want to submit a 100-page paper? No, don't do that to them. I'll just leave this up for one quick more moment. Okay, then we have supplementary information form. It's standard, the SUP form is standard across all programs. So every applicant, doesn't matter what level or program, you're gonna have to do the general one. A handful of programs as listed here have another second supplementary information form. So usually it's information that is in another place on your application. It's kind of like when you're applying for a job and you upload your resume and then you have to resubmit all of your job information. However, this allows the information to be organized in a way that makes sense for the committee. So it's helping them out with organizing that information. Some are quite straightforward. Some, like social works, is quite complex because they're looking for a deep dive into your practical experiences. So if your program has a specialized or a second supplementary information form, it's usually available on the website, like on the program website. Then lastly, there's a couple ones that don't fit into any other category really. For interdisciplinary studies, you need to meet with the program director before you formally apply to see if they're ready, willing, and able to support your research ideas. For interdisciplinary studies, you can submit a portfolio instead of a sample of written work if you wish. So they're very open to that. Then applied linguistics wants to see a detailed list of your paid teaching positions and employment confirmation. And linguistics wants to see a course list. So ultimately, your application is not complete until all of the supporting documents have been submitted to the website or the admissions portal. For programs that have a deadline that is not December 1st, there is leeway in submitting your documents. So if you've got a January 15th deadline and you submit something on January 20th, that's fine. If you're applying to a program with a December 1st deadline, treat it as if it's the deadline for everything, December 1st. Because those committees will meet in December and may not consider your application if it's not complete. Okay, so that's really the end. I mean, it's not a formal presentation, but that's the end of the slide deck, really. We've got a plug for our Faculty of Graduate Studies social channels, so Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We'll do a callback to the YouTube in particular. We have tons of videos on there. Of importance would be the How to Write a Statement of Interest session. The one there is from February. There was one done on Tuesday. It's very similar content. Like it doesn't really change year to year. But yeah, that's available right now. And then I'll leave the slide here, the FGS Apply. Is you can contact us at any point about grad admissions at York, and we are happy to help or happy to refer you to a department that can.